Okay, so here, now that we can do this, start going wide. That's what you want the deck to do. Tap away, drain, drain. All right, down to 10. All right, we're closing the gap. We are taking hits ourselves, but we are draining our opponent just as fast. Okay, so. All right, down to 2. Okay, opponents, you have 1 turn to stop us. Do you have an option to stop us? And no, they are out of time. Hello my fire friends, the Infernoman here with the hottest in budget deck technology. And for today's deck tech, we are continuing our deep dive into Lorwyn Eclipsed as we try to highlight each of the creature types that is featured on the plane. And this time around, we're going to be highlighting a deck that is very annoying to play against with a little bit of new life breathed into it from the set.
What did you say?
That's right. So without further ado, join me today in the Pioneer format for a deck that I'm simply calling Fae Tempo. Longtime viewers of the channel know how we do it. We have to talk about the stats of the deck before we dive right in. So Fae Tempo is going to be a Dimir colored deck of utilizing blue and black. We're going to keep it as simple as possible by utilizing 18 creatures, 20 instants, and only 22 lands. Fae Tempo, as I mentioned earlier, is trying to utilize a very annoying type of deck against our opponent. We're basically going to try to play as many flash-enabled creatures that will be played on the beginning of our opponent's end step, meaning that they will have little to no time to react to anything we put out there. And even if they do, we'll have a couple of key instants that'll either bounce things away, counterspell, tap creatures down, which should hopefully be enough to overwhelm our opponent and secure our victory. Now that we have that out of the way, let's now go in depth into the deck to explain to you how we're going to get that victory. So, starting in the 1-drop slot, our only non-flash creature in the deck is going to be Fairy Dream Thief. Although we can play this on turn 1, it still provides for us good value. It enters, it's Surveillance 1, and then if it ends up in the graveyard, you can pay 3 later on to draw a card and lose 1 life at instant speed. Our other ways we can help us draw some extra cards will be Fairy Mastermind here. Fairy Rogue, 2/1 with Flash and Flying. Anytime an opponent draws their second card each turn, we can also draw a card. If we have to, we can also force our opponent to draw a card for 4 mana with the secondary ability. But the real reason I wanted to do a new fairy deck in the Pioneer format was specifically for Bitter Bloom Bearer, an amazingly very powerful card that I have to talk about for just a moment. Bitter Bloom Bearer here is a 2 black mana 1/1 fairy rogue with flash and flying, and it reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and create a 1/1 blue and black fairy creature token with flying. So, the idea with this card is, this will slowly help us go wide and create for us enough fairies that we should be able to then keep chump blocking against our opponent, no matter what they throw at us, and this will also trigger off a couple of other key abilities that our fairies will want to have on the field. Now let's go over the 2 legendaries in the deck, with Obira here, Dreaming Duelist. I love this card. Even at budget level, it's still an amazing card. A legendary Fairy Warrior 2/2 with Flash and Flying, and anytime another fairy we control enters, each opponent will lose 1 life. So while we are losing life on our own here with Bitter Bloom Bearer, we can also make our opponent lose life as well as we keep making more and more fairy tokens. But the other major way to punish our opponent and make them drain out quickly is going to be Talion, the Kindly Lord. We played this version of fairies before with Talion in the standard format, but she can really shine here in the Pioneer format. For those that have forgotten, Talion, the Kindly Lord, is a 4 mana 3/4 fairy noble with flying, and it reads, as Talion enters, choose a number between 1 and 10. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with a mana value, power, or toughness equal to the chosen number, that player will lose 2 life, and you get to draw a card. Wow, that's amazing value for what this card can do as our finisher for the deck. Now going over the non-creature spells that are going to help us provide a little bit of extra support, we have some removal with Fatal Push here. We'll utilize a couple of different ways to trigger the Revolt ability, but we'll talk about in just a moment. But realistically, because we're doing fairies, we can then take advantage of Fairy Fencing here, an X black mana spell at instant speed that gives a target creature -X/-X until end of turn. That creature will get an additional -3/-3 by default as long as we've controlled a fairy as we cast a spell. So as long as we have, again, at least 1 fairy, it'll be for 1 mana. You don't even have to pay the X, mind you, to make it a -3/-3 spell, so it helps us get around things like indestructible creatures. But if we scale it up in the mid or late game, this will still be a very devastating removal piece for anything our opponent throws at us. As far as the tempo plays to help us make sure we can keep control of the board, we're going to utilize here another card that takes advantage of fairies. So Spell Setter here is going to be our counter spell. We counter target spell unless our opponent pays 2. However, they also have to pay an additional 1 for each fairy we control. So this will be amazing, as again, it scales very well with our deck. If we don't want to deal with counter spell shenanigans against our opponent here, we can also utilize here Divide by 0. This is an instant speed spell that just allows us to bounce back a target spell or even a permanent with a mana value of 1 or greater to our opponent's hand, and it also will trigger the Learn ability. We'll talk about what we're going going to try to pull out with the sideboard utilizing Learn in just a few moments.
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
But our only other final tempo piece will be Fey Bloom Trick, 3 mana instant speed to create 2 blue fairy creature tokens with flying, and when we do, we can tap down a target creature an opponent controls. So this can get blockers out of the way, trigger off things such as Obira here, and also our other fairies to help us go wide, and again, make sure we have chump blockers, at least on the backswing if we need to in a pinch. Moving over now to the mana base here. Again, we are a budget deck, or at least I should say budget in arena. We're going to be utilizing here 7 islands and 7 swamps down the middle. We have Choked Estuary. As a friendly reminder, this is technically a rare in paper, but in arena, it is an uncommon, so we will take advantage of that at least in arena for our budget. And finally, Maestro's Theater. When the land enters, sacrifice immediately to get out a basic island, swamp, or mountain, so this is perfect for our deck. As far as your sideboard is concerned, we are going to take advantage of the fact that we are utilizing here Divide by Zero. And thankfully to Avatar's credit, we can now have new lessons that we can actually fetch out with Divide by Zero. So this means we can now take advantage of Boomerang Basics to bounce back non-land permanents, whether it's our opponent's or if it's ours, we can draw a card. Octopus Form here gives one of our creatures the ability to untap, give it hexproof, and a +1/+1 pump. It'll quench you here with Sokka on it. I love that art, by the way.
It'll quench you. Nothing's quenchier. It's the quenchiest.
This is again an additional counterspell if we need another counterspell in a pinch. We also utilize here Azula Always Lies, so we can either weaken a creature or we can pump up a creature by putting a counter on it, and also we can utilize both at the same time. We have Ozai's Cruelty here to making our opponent discard 2 cards, and they will take 2 points of damage. And finally, we can dig out Ruinous Waterbending here, so we can make all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. If we pay the waterbending cost of 4, every creature that does die, we can also gain 1 life. As far as the remainder of it, for best of 3s, you will utilize your Ego Drain. So this is basically Thoughtseize for fairy decks. So we're going to throw this in to help us discard a non-land card an opponent has. However, if you don't control a fairy, you will have to exile one of your own cards, so be careful when using it. Otherwise, our only other support will be Ashiok Dreamrender to then deny our opponents the ability to search. But again, this is mostly for graveyard hate and milling. And finally, on the very end here will be Voracious Tome Skimmer here. So a 3 mana 2/3 fairy rogue. Anytime we can cast a spell during our opponent's turn, we can also pay 1 life. But if we do, we can draw extra cards. And otherwise, folks, that is the whole deck for you in a nutshell. So now that we've already gone in depth with the deck and what we're trying to do, let's get to now the exciting part of this video. Let's take this deck into the Pioneer format. Let's play some best of 1 matches and let's see how well fairies can annoy our opponents. But before we continue, if you do like any of the content that I do, please like, follow, and subscribe wherever you watch the content. You can support me monthly for a small amount on Patreon, where I have all of my extended bonus footage posted. We also have a Redbubble spot where you can buy merch like stickers and shirts, or for free, all you can just do also is just join our growing community on Discord. Your support helps keep this channel going. All links are in the details below. Okay, my fire friends, here we go. Can we out-tempo our opponent with utilizing a bunch of fairies? Well, from what we see here, we do have Obira, we do have Divide by Zero, and we have some spot removal for us. So this should be a pretty good hand overall once we can start getting control of the board. Opponent's playing Forest, Land of War Elves. Okay, so we didn't get, alright, we didn't get our untapped Black Swords. That's okay. Still managed to do our opponent dirty here once we start getting stuff down. Hopefully we won't be able to be overwhelmed just yet. Frenzy Baloth. Interesting. Looks like it's going to be mono green Stompy. That's kind of cute. But we do have ways of getting around this, so I'm going to pass for now. Ideally, if we can get another Black Source, but then we'd be set here. Avatar of the Resolute. Okay. Trample. Okay. Opponent is swinging, so we will Fatal Push away Frenzy Baloth. So it's only 1 point of damage down to me. 16, not too shabby. We're still in a bit of an awkward spot. Mostly because, again, I want to start casting more spells, but our deck is a little tricky when it comes to casting what we need to on time. Opponent is swinging here, so we will Divide by Zero. Avatar Resolute bounces away, and then this means we can get out... We want the Ruinous Waterbending to actually do its thing. Alright, Nykthos. Okay, our opponent is definitely ready to start getting stuff down here. Alright. We're still kind of not where we want to be, though. We have 22 lands. Where's our lands at? I always feel like I'm asking for where our lands are at. Opponents. I should find it ironic, though. They actually have a fairy avatar here in the corner, but they're actually not playing fairies, but we happen to be the fairy deck ourselves. Opponent, do you swing? Oh, they do swing. Okay. Well, that actually works in our favor. Now we can start doing some shenanigans on our own. Okay, chose Estuary, which is normally great, but it comes in tap because we don't have mana to show. It's okay, though. It's not a big deal, everybody. We will not attack because Avatar of the Resolute can also block. Okay, let's see here. Do we do this now? Alright, well, I guess we'll just do it here. Alright, out of the way. So, while nothing super crazy, we are little by little hopefully going to try to stall out our opponent here as we try to get back into this fight. Okay, so from here, we swing. Nice. But it does swing. I think we'll do this now, so... no matter where else, bounces away. We can get another card now, so this means we'll get... it'll quench ya. That'll be helpful for later on. Not necessarily right now, but for later on in case we do need to counterspell. 5 mana open. 6 mana, actually. Alright, now we gotta start going wide here quick. Better Boom Bearer. Start pinging our opponent little by little. We are going to take some damage ourselves, but it's okay. The whole point right now is to just slowly drain out our opponent here. Okay, we surveil. We don't need any more lands. Now we have plenty of lands. Start swinging here. Down to 12. Okay, not too bad. Cactar. Okay, so for that... I guess draw some cards. Okay, so for here, now that we can do this, start going wide. That's what you want the deck to do. Tap away, drain, drain. All right, down to 10. All right, we're closing the gap. We are taking hits ourselves, but we are draining our opponent just as fast. Okay, so. All right, down to 2. Okay, opponents, you have 1 turn to stop us. Do you have an option to stop us? And no, they are out of time. They have had enough. All right. There you go, everyone. Fae Tempo still got it. Oh, man. An annoying little deck, but it's so devious and so hilariously good. Okay, my fire friends, here we go. Can we out-tempo and annoy our opponent with a bunch of flying fairies in the air? Well, we do have at least a couple 2-drops. We have at least 1 piece of spot removal, and we have a tempo spot to make some more fairies. Let's see if we can get there. Okay, looks like it's going to be mono red aggro. Alright, that's fine with us. Play the Choked Estuary, showing off a swamp. And pass. Okay, they start pumping. Then we just need to get rid of this before it's too late. Fatal push it. Obviously, they're not going to use any of their pumps, so at the very least, it buys us time. Ooh, Electrostatic Field. Oh, that's kind of cute. I haven't seen that card in forever. Play the swamp. And we'll go from here. So it looks like it's actually going to be a pinger aggro deck.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.
That means our opponent's going to start pumping. Not yet. Just trying to get that early game damage in. Okay. Player Mastermind. Okay, so it looks like it did stick, so that's good. That comes in, unfortunately, tapped. I realized I played those lands wrong. That's my mistake. That shouldn't come back to haunt us, right? Right? Any case. Let's start getting our damage going. Electrostatic Field again. Number 2. Pump here. Alright. So, opponent. We will get pinged. Not a huge deal. We can still take things out here. Because that's -3/-3 thanks to the fairy we have. So that's basically a very good spot removal spell for us. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. No damage. Just the pings. Not a huge deal for us. So let's get out next an island. Swing at our opponent here. Down to 14. Okay. Ooh, light up the stage. Okay. So from here, we're actually going to bounce that away. Sorry, opponent. We'll take a free spell for ourselves here. So for that, let's take the Ozai's Cruelty. Okay. So from here, Ozai's Cruelty. And for 2, so now we get to ping them. Make them throw away 2 cards. Fairy Mastermind, number 2. Swing. Down to 10. Not too bad against, even if it is a little bit of a jankier, older version of Mono Red. Still works. Block here. Okay. Threat's gone. Okay, now we're doing it. Down to 8. I kind of feel bad because I feel like their deck was like a deck that was good maybe 3-4 years ago. But here we go. We get pinged here. Do we do this now? I don't want to give them a card, so I guess we'll just make our tokens. Tap one of the walls. We lose your Fairy Mastermind, but we still have some pressure on board. Okay, divide by 0. That's actually great for us. Down to 6. Whatever they play, we can bounce something back for the time being. Okay, Burst Lightning. So for this, bounce Bounce that away. Oh, we got the octopus form. That actually is good for us. Take the pings. Deny them taking that out. Alright. Not too bad. Okay. We're still in this. Down to 4. Okay, what does our opponent play here? Kumama. Okay. We could take out the pingers, but we're still ahead on life. So we're going to keep this just in case if they do have an actual physical threat. Oh my goodness. We're going to actually beat them with just 2 little tokens. That's cute. What else you throw at us, opponent? It won't matter because we have now taken the victory. All right. Nice. Nice. There we go, everyone. Not the most flashiest way of doing it, but we managed to pull off a victory there against Mono Red. I guess maybe from like circa 2018. Okay, my fire friends, here we go. Can we out-tempo our opponent with a bunch of Fae flying in the air? Well, we do have at least one, but we're missing a couple here. On the other hand, we do have a bit of options for tempoing him out, but that's not until turn 3. Okay, so we're playing against Yorion, so we have a little bit of time to bide until then. Alright, Maestro's Theater, sacking. We'll get a swamp, actually. Wait, was it? Was it going to say mountain? There's no mountains in this deck. Okay, Maestro's Theater number 2. This time, however, we'll just put out the island. So this way, at the beginning of our opponent's end step, we could just get out Obira. Okay, nothing from our opponent yet, so I guess we'll just play Obira now. Okay, this does stick, so that's good. Island. Alright, and we'll pass here. A lot of lands. Alright, so for this... Actually, hold on. I think we'll do it this way. Play a Bloom Trick. Get a couple pings off. So unfortunately, we will lose our main fairy, but at least we can still apply pressure. Authority of the Consuls, alright. Okay, Bitter Bloom Bearers. So, how do we do this here? Okay. Wedding announcement, alright. Bounce away Authority of the Consuls. Boomerang basics. Okay, we got another bearer, so that's not too bad either. Down to 12. Bounce the Seam Rip. Get back Obira. So for our opponents, play Seam Rip again. Bearer. Get at least one ping off. Down to 11. Authority of the Consuls comes back. Birth the Meltus. Okay, so where is our actual, like, pieces to slow down our opponent completely here? We really could use a counterspell or two. Alright, they're going to start gaining life here. So that actually... Okay, we have all the Bitter Blooms in the world, which normally is great, but with the Authority of the Consuls, that actually puts us in a really awkward spot. Okay, Maestro's Theater. Okay, we'll get a Swamp, so we're still a little even here. Down to 9. Come on, deck. Don't mess with me now. Swing. Is a Wrath coming? That's the only other thing I can think of right now that's going to completely wreck us here. And there's the Day of Judgment. Alright, alright, alright. Carrot Cake. So, again, if it weren't for that Authority of the Consuls, we'd be actually in a really good spot right now. Because I can put down the Bearer, but they'll now rebalance themselves out with that life gain. Ugh, this is beyond frustrating. Okay. Come on. We have to have something. Okay, Spell Stutter is not bad, but still a ways away. Down to 10. They will gain 2 life. So they're stabilizing. Nick those. So the shirts... Okay, so they're basically a mono-white devotion deck. Caretaker's Talent. Okay. Restoration of a Ganjo. So, here's how we do this. They will gain life off of that. Spell Stutter will now counterspell that. Okay, so at least that's gone. We have threats, which is good. Oh, we just need to get rid of that Authority of the Consuls. If we cannot get rid of that, or we cannot pump ourselves up, we won't be able to close this game out. and they will start getting more and more tokens. Stronger ones than ours. Well, we also ping ourselves. Okay. We're not making any progress now. Ugh. Terrible. Seal from existence. Alright, now our opponent is slowly locking us away here. We'll give it a couple more turns, but at this point, we're gonna actually get beat down by some bunnies. Only just because we cannot find an answer. Oh, Elspeth. Alright. Ugh.
Well, this stinks.
This might be it for us. They'll now draw more cards than us. They have stronger tokens than us. They're gonna get Yori on now. Okay. We get pinged. Okay, the Fatal Push isn't bad, but at the same time, it's way too late. I mean, I could even swing here, and it won't matter. Okay. Okay. Opponent. Is this pretty much it? Visa. They get a card off of that, and some more life gain, so they're now ahead of us. We were off to a good start, but we somehow fizzled, and we just could not close it out with what we had. Yep. They get all their tokens to get pumped up.
I'm in danger.
I mean, they can blink whatever at this point. I don't care anymore. All right, we lost. Well, that was unfortunate. I mean, I can Fatal Push away one token, but it won't matter. We still lose. Wow. Literally, as always, one card that stops aggro every time. Authority of the Consoles. Okay, well, it is what it is, everyone. Let's go ahead, let's go to the wrap-up now and just talk about this deck as a whole. And there you have it, everybody. So that was Fae Tempo for you for the Pioneer format. And you tell me in the comments below, what do you think? Would you play this deck in any way, shape, or form? To be honest with you, I'm actually very surprised at how the deck turned out. I'm actually really satisfied with it. Now, having said that, however, as you kind of saw from one of our other matches, that our biggest weakness, of course, to be aware of is anything that can gain life will make us feel very sad, especially against cards like Authority of the Consoles. But that's neither here nor there, and that's not always going to happen. So that's why you want to adjust yourself, make sure you use your divide by zeros and your spell setters accordingly. If you do like what the deck is trying to do and you want to take this deck to the next level, if you made it this far into the video, leave a comment below because you are my true fiery friends. And because of that, I'll be more than happy to show you in just a second how you can upgrade this deck and take it to the next level. As far as upgrading the deck to take it to the next level, we'll then take advantage of a new fairy here, Flitterwing Nuisance. So it's a 1 mana 2/2, great stats. However, it does enter with a -1/-1 counter on it, but you can remove that counter for 3 mana. And then once you start dealing damage with other creatures when you attack, we can start drawing cards off of this as the game progresses. The only other upgrade, of course, for the main deck here will be Brazen Borrower, so this can either be a bounce spell or it can be a flash flying fairy rogue for us. To do that, however, you have to make room by then trimming away 1 copy of Obira and 2 copies of Fae Bloom Trick. The other upgrades to the deck are going to be located in the mana base here, so we'll then upgrade here by getting Cavernous Souls, making all of our fairies uncounterable against enemy control decks. We'll then actually, and all, of course, the rare dual lands we can muster up, so Dark Slick Shores, Gloomlake Verge, and Watery Grave. By doing this, however, we're going to trim down to 2 islands and 2 swamps, and make room for a single copy of Otawara Soaring City, and a single copy of Takanuma Abandoned Mire. Now, when it comes to upgrading the sideboard, this mostly is going to come down to personal preference, but for the sake of simplicity for our deck tech today, I want to keep the divide by zero and take advantage of the new lessons that came to us from Avatar. So those won't change at all, but you can change that to a much more traditional sideboard if you want to. If you're either way, however you want to do so, we're going to upgrade our discard spell now to Thoughtseize. This is much more consistent no matter what you want to play. And that means we're going to be trimming away our weaker Wrath here for a stronger Wrath with Crippling Fear. Yes, it is going to be 4 mana to cast. However, once we choose Fairy, every creature that isn't a Fairy will get -3/-3 until end of turn. Hopefully this should be a one-sided Wrath against our opponents. And then one other final upgrade is going to be adding in Rankle, Master of Pranks. 2 copies of this. When this Fairy Rogue attacks and deals combat damage to a player, we can choose any number of its abilities. We can either make an opponent discard a card, we can make everyone lose 1 life and draw a card, or we can make every person sacrifice a creature of their choice. And with that all out of the way, here are my final thoughts that I want to give you on this deck. If you're a fan of instant speed spells, if you're a fan of fairies as a creature type, And if you're a fan of a deck that's looking to annoy the heck out of your opponents by bouncing things, counterspelling, and tapping things down, then I would definitely say, give this deck a try, and I assure you, when you manage to go wide with a bunch of fairy tokens, and then overwhelm your opponent with all of them, you're going to have a lot of fun doing so, and you'll be very surprised at how you can pull it off on today's arena budget. And when you get the sweet satisfaction of making your opponent rage quit, I assure you, you will definitely not be disappointed. That's all I have for you today. Thanks again for watching, everyone. And just remember that no matter what you do play in the game of life, always be sure to burn bright. Later.